more and more likely they're going to nominate Mitt Romney, you may very well see Ron Paul running for president as well. And so that will split the Republicans and could ensure the election of President Obama. So both sides have their sort of fringe elements, but the Republicans actually, I think, have it much worse than the Democrats. I think that basically the liberals will hold their nose and vote for Obama. The real question is, will they come out and vote?
All right. Bob Stern with us. We're also joined by Jonathan Miller, co-founder of No Labels, which is an advocacy organization trying to bring reform to Congress, and Mark Barabak, national political reporter for the Los Angeles Times. Zack in Van Nuys is a supporter of Ron Paul, who was just mentioned. Zack, good to have you with us.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, I just want to say I'm a millennial, and I'm a smart, young, self-reliant, working American, and both parties, I think, are selling out the American people. And, I voted for Obama, got caught up in all the hope and change, and it's clear who he's working for. He's working for the corporatocracy, the oligarchy. And
if Ron Paul were to run, Zack, as an independent, would you vote for him?
Yeah, I'd vote for him. I'll do everything in my power to convince all my fellow Californians to vote for him. I think he's the only one that knows where the problems lie in this country, who fights against the powers that be that are selling out the American people and the American Constitution.
If Ron Paul doesn't end up running, who would you vote for? If it were between President Obama and Mitt Romney, for example, who would you vote for?
I don't know. I think I would have to put. I think I have to write in or maybe put none of the above. I think Romney's a joke. Gingrich is a joke. And it's clear Obama doesn't have our best interests at heart. He's a puppet.
So you declined to vote, more than likely, it sounds like.
More likely, yeah.
Okay, Zack, I appreciate your call. Thanks very much. Jonathan Miller of No Labels. I mean, here's a voter who may well sit this out. And obviously, your organization trying to change that.
Yeah, I think what Zack had to say is really a strong indication of his generation. I don't know, I don't think the whole generation is a Ron Paul support. I think he's taken that. I think Paul's going to have good support in that generation, but I don't think they're going to uniformly go. But the anger and frustration and disillusion that Zack identified is clearly the case here, and so you're going to see some like Zack say, "I'm not going to vote." You're going to see some find identification with third-party candidates. At No Labels, we've really focused a lot of energy on what we call the No Labels generation because, part of the problem is the system, we think, is at the heart of the problem, and that if we can fix the system, then we're going to have a lot more confidence in our leaders and our parties, and that's if you go to nolabels.org, you can find out our proposals and help join us in trying to fix the system the way it is right now.
Mark Barabak of the Los Angeles Times. So if the Zacks of the country sit this election out, which candidate benefits?
Well, it's hard to say. It depends how many of the Zacks are former Obama voters and how many of the Zacks are people who typically vote Republican. I mean, look, subtraction is as important in politics as addition. What you saw last year in 2010, the big, huge Republican landslide, resulted not just from a lot of Republicans turning out, but more than that, a lot of people who voted Democratic staying home. So you're right. That's really important. But I think one thing we shouldn't lose sight of, it's a long way from here to next November, and a lot's going to happen. But fundamentally, it's going to be a choice, and it always comes down to a choice. Yes, to a large extent, the election is going to be a referendum on President Obama, and more specifically his performance on the economy. But if people are unhappy, which a lot of them are, it then comes down to the second stage, which is, do you like the alternative, whether it's Ron Paul or Mitt Romney or Newt Gingrich or somebody better than Obama. And, a lot of people right now are looking at Obama versus the Obama who ran in 2008. Certainly Zack seems to indicate he is disappointed. There wasn't the hope. There wasn't the change. It's going to be a different calculation next fall when it's going to be President Obama versus fill in the blank.
Nick in Hollywood, you're on Air Talk.
Yes. Hi, Larry.
Hi.
I feel good about what just happened with this bipartisan vote with the payroll tax. It just, again, shows the American public even more big time how sad it is that the voter is and the American people are not considered. It's all this back and forth between Democrats and Republicans. So I'm glad that it happened because it shines light on it so much more. And, just to comment on the Zacks, you can't sit this one out. There's always the lesser of two evils, and you have to cast your vote. Usually it's the Democrats that would suffer if it's a sit-out because it's usually the liberal people that are sitting out. But no matter who you're for, Democrat and Republican, you've got to still vote. And I'm really glad, again, that this big one showed that it's not about the American people. It's all about just the two parties. And I'm so glad that it happened. That's basically
okay. Now, Nick, you're an independent voter. Is that right?
Well, I would be an independent voter, but I don't think there's enough power in that. So I'm definitely an Obama supporter, and I will be again because I think he inherited so much, and then his hands were tied so many times, like you saw, yesterday. So I will continue to vote, Democrat and for the president. I think he did a great job having to fight this bipartisan war that doesn't help the American voter at all.
All right. I appreciate your call, Nick. Thanks very much. 866-893-KPCC or the Air Talk page, kpcc.org. Do the events of this past week over the payroll tax cut and the back and forth over that, the nasty politics of that, does that, along with other things, drive you to reconsider being associated with a party? Does it drive you toward independence as a voter? We see the trend unmistakably in California and in swing states where the presidency will be decided next year. 866-893-KPCC, Air Talk page, kpcc.org. Henry in Huntington Beach, you're on Air Talk.
Hi, I'm an independent. I have been for, 15 years. I'm 59, but I agree with Zack. I don't see a difference between the two parties. I see Obama increasing the drone strikes over Bush, pardoning the war crimes or not pursuing him. I see him, health care, he just gave it to Big Pharma for a change. So I'm very cynical, and I don't know who I would vote for. Maybe Romney, maybe Ron Paul, but Obama, I voted for him. I took my family to Washington, D.C. to stand in that cold, cold weather and watch the inaugural, and I watched him sell us out. He just wants to get reelected. That's why he cracked down on medical marijuana. That's why he overrode the scientists on the day after birth control. And when Bush did that, it was bad, but the Democrats don't seem to see the problem with it when Obama does it. It's just, for him, it's all about reelection.
All right. It's interesting because, you're talking about Obama, you feel like sold out to corporate interests and to military decision-making over civil rights in your view, and yet you're considering Mitt Romney. It's interesting as a candidate. So, it shows the diversity of points of views there are with people who are disaffected.
Not psychotic, but I am for personal liberty, and I like fiscal conservatism. So,
right.
I think that, we have to live within our means.
I appreciate your call, Henry. Thanks very much. We're taking your calls on Air Talk, 866-893-KPCC, Air Talk page, kpcc.org. So, Bob Stern, I want to come back to you, and I know that our callers are not representative statistically overall, but, you have so many people that are critical on of Barack Obama from the left, so to speak, and but there's really no other place to go. There isn't Ralph Nader. There isn't someone else out there, right?
That's the interesting question, Larry. When Jimmy Carter was sort of in this position in the 70s, Ted Kennedy went after him in the primary election and really weakened him. And so far, President Obama has been very, very lucky that no liberal has taken him on and is challenging him in the primary election. That makes a big difference for him. Henry seems very typical of the sort of disenchanted voters. People who voted for Obama, he went to the inauguration after all, and now is saying he's not going to vote for him. Obama has really turned off a lot of people. He raised the expectations really big and then has disappointed people. Mark Barabak is exactly right. There probably won't be a third-party candidate who will be elected, but there will be third-party candidates, and both parties, both the Democrats and Republicans, are petrified by this because they can't control it. The Republicans are petrified by a Ron Paul candidacy. The Democrats are petrified by this Americans Elect group, who may be nominating a Michael Bloomberg, for example, who would take a lot of votes away from Obama. So the big unknown next year is going to be this third-party movement.
Jackie in Temecula, welcome.
Yes. For the first time, I feel very apathetic towards any candidate because I think between the House and the Senate, it makes the presidency a moot point. Nobody's willing to allow anything to get done because they don't want the other guy to get credit. And I don't think it makes a difference who runs or who wins.
Wow. So have you voted in every presidential election that's come up every 4 years since you registered?
Yes.